Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm really honored to be here. I mean, this is, when I was invited, I said, wow, this is a serious group. We better, be prepared. And I just want to say that, we are prepared, and we've been preparing for a long time, because this has been an issue. This voting has been an issue in our community for quite some time. And our challenge is to help people understand that their votes really do count and they really do have power. I'm done already? No. Thank you, everybody. No. So I just wanted to go over a few things. I want to kind of talk about the start of Souls to the Polls, because it certainly was to save our community some of the grief that has been occurring over decades. And I want to talk a little bit about voter suppression, which is deeply seated and rooted in causing people not to involve themselves in the process. And I want to talk about voter power, and I want to talk about our new organization, a 501c4 organization called Power to the Polls. The start of Souls to the Polls was coming out of an organization called Pastors United Community Advocacy, Inc., and we started that in 2010. And it was incorporated as a 501c3 in 2013. So there was a lot of groundwork getting started organizing faith leaders to understand the power of the church and pushing out the vote in our community. And as the president and founder of Pastors United, we had 6 issue items, and one was family structure. The number one was family structure, and we asked 300 faith leaders, senior pastors, at a breakfast at MATC, what were your most pressing issues? And number one was family structure, number 2 was health and wellness, number 3 was economic development, number 4 was crime and incarceration, and number 5 was education, and number 6 was civic engagement. And out of the issue item civic engagement came our Souls to the Polls organization. And we started because we had a visit from Valerie Jarrett. She came to a church where we were meeting, and she told us we could vote on Sundays. And I just started calling voting on Sundays Souls to the Polls. I don't know if I started it, but I know I was very, very excited about Ms. Jarrett saying that we could vote on Sundays, and we started saying, well, we can organize churches to come out on Sundays and vote. And she was the lead advisor for President Obama. So it was a great meeting, and we had great conversation, and that's how we got started calling this Souls to the Polls. And it also came out of work I was doing with SEIU, and my partner in doing that work was somebody you may be familiar with, maybe not, but it was Bruce Colburn, and we were, getting out the vote. He partnered with me, and I was actually working for SEIU as a consultant. And I went around and I sat down with 64 faith leaders, one-on-one sessions, and we talked about being tired of being frustrated and powerless. That's how we got to developing this Souls to the Polls. I want to talk a little bit about why we developed this relationship, and it was really because of voter apathy. You know, people don't believe that their votes really count. People don't believe in our system of government. I'm talking about in my community and now in communities all over the country. And people have been mishandled for decades, even centuries, and hopelessness and mistrust is inculcated. It's a part of them. It's been inculcated in their systems. Because we deal right now with this scorched earth politics, where our politicians will burn up everything. They'll destroy everything. They'll allow anything and lie about most things just to keep power. But the number one thing that is consistently hindering folks from believing and engaging in the process is voter suppression. And I don't think many people understand what voter suppression really is. You know, you think when you talk voter suppression, it's like somebody stopping you from voting at the door. No, that's not what it is. Voter suppression is a system of obstacles that have been put in place like a chess game to make sure you get frustrated, to make sure that you give up, to make sure that you believe you don't count. They put these obstacles in your way systematically to discourage you from voting if you're not voting for them. And I just want to talk about a few of these suppression obstacles, because it's not one obstacle that affects folks. It's the conglomerate. It's all these obstacles coming at you one after another. You get past one thing, here's something else. And for a community that doesn't believe in the system in the first place, it's quite discouraging. You know, we start out with these strict photo ID laws. You know, that came right out of here. Wisconsin was one of the first with our Governor Walker and our state legislature with these voter ID laws. That was suppression at its best to start. But then there are these other suppression obstacles, and I want you to be patient with me, because I want to call out these obstacles, because I want people to understand that it's not just voter ID. It's a bunch of things that slap you in the face. 61 obstacles I've found to be in place. I couldn't talk about all of them today because they only gave me 20 minutes. But I can talk to you about some of them that you probably don't realize they're occurring. You know, a lack of early voting, no Sunday voting. I think they did that just for souls to the polls. Say, hey man, we got to stop that. Complex voter registration. Man, you got to almost have a college education to register. I mean, it's crazy. And people can't help you register. Polling place reductions. They make it inconvenient. Limited drop box availability. Now that's been a big issue, the drop boxes, because if you have, listen, wow, I don't have enough time. But I'm going to tell you this. If you have a ballot that you need to be mailed in, if you don't mail it in time, if it doesn't get there by 8 o'clock on the day of the election, your ballot isn't counted. Now let me tell you how important that is. In the mayor election in 2018, I believe, You know, we were suing the city because of COVID. We wanted to change the date for the election, but they wouldn't listen. So we sued them. We sued the Wisconsin Election Commission. My name is on that lawsuit. I was dying of COVID at the time, and I was telling folks that, you know, we shouldn't have this election now. Who's going out and risk their lives to vote? As a matter of fact, a lot of people did. But my point is this: we sued them to move that election date. They didn't move the election date. But in our lawsuit, we sued them to count those absentee ballots. So on that Tuesday was the vote. They counted ballots all the way up to that next Monday. So from that Tuesday to the next Monday, they counted 118,000 absentee ballots. It made the difference between who was going to be a Supreme Court justice in our state. How important are those drop boxes? They're very important. If you can't make it to the polls, or if you can't put those drop boxes, those ballots in a drop box, your vote won't be counted if you don't get there in time. And who can really trust the mail? I mean, really, who can really trust the mail? Failure to place polling places on Native American land. Wow. Really? Native American land? This was their land. And now we're here, we're occupying it. But they were here, and they won't even put polling places on some of those lands. Refusal to place polling places on college campuses. How much sense would that make if you made it more convenient for young adults to vote? Excessive voter purging. You guys know what purging is? That's if you haven't voted in the last 2 national elections, they presume that you don't want to vote anymore, and they take your name off the registration list. You don't even know your name's not on that list. So you go to the polling place and find out you're not registered if you want to vote again. Disparate racial treatment at polling places. You know, treating people bad in our neighborhoods, in our communities. Ex-felon disenfranchisement laws. People don't know that they can vote if they're not on paper, they say. If you're not seeing a parole or probation officer, if all that is over, you're eligible to vote. Jail persons and pre-conviction mode. That means that most of those people in the House of Correction and downtown, if they're not felons, they're eligible to vote, but they can't register and they don't get to vote. No public outreach or notification. Why isn't our public officials really letting people know that it's time to vote? Listen, we had a survey done during the mayoral election by a company in California, and they asked 25,000 people. This is almost enough to make you cry. They asked 25,000 people, do you know you're voting for a new mayor? Hadn't had a new mayor in 20 years. Had 4 black mayoral candidates. In our community, they asked them, do you know there's an election coming up in April? 92% of the people didn't even know there was an election coming up. That's enough to make you want to cry. It really is. Language discrimination. Failure to accommodate voters with disabilities. Really? See, it's the conglomerate of these obstacles. No disability accessibility. No assistance to aged and disabled. Voter intimidation. You get these people coming in your polling places, they don't know any more about voting than you do. But they place themselves in positions to discourage you when you come in because you have questions and you don't have the knowledge you need to really make sure that your vote is in and counted. So they stand there and become obstacles in your way. No assistance to aged and disabled. Voter intimidation, torches, and pitchforks I heard about the other day. I just threw that one in there. Yeah. But that's a form of suppression. You know, this candidate, I won't mention his name, he said, hey, people, it's time to get out your torches and pitchforks. And I said, what does that mean? Me, coming from Louisiana, that has a certain connotation for me. I won't even go into that. We don't have time. Police presence. Hispanic folks, especially, they don't want to go trying to cast their vote and police are standing at the door. You know, some of them are afraid. Well, anyway. Moving polling places. Anybody went to the polls, they say, hold on, you're not here, you're down there. Partisan gerrymandering. Man, the maps have been so skewed, there might not be a change of the guards for decades or even a century. Now that is crazy. Barriers to the homeless. You know, people may not have a place to live, but they still have a right to vote. Absentee ballot, short deadlines, failure to pre-register 17-year-olds. What's happening to our school system? These 17-year-olds will be eligible to vote if they become 18 before November 8th. Long lines. And that's just a few of the 61 forms that I've found to be obstacles and discouraging people to engage into the process. It's not just one thing. It's not just one of these things that voters are asked to overcome, but it's the bombardment of all the things that will frustrate the average person. And what they don't understand is that voting is pure power. How am I doing on time? I'm sorry. Am I good? Oh, I'm good. Not really, but I'm good. Voting is pure power. You know, our conscious community, you know, just believe that, when I say conscious community, I mean all the great brains who, you know, have all this historical knowledge and they just don't believe that votes really count. And they convince others that votes don't count. We overthink things, and it's really a simple process. We don't have our own candidates. You know, we always feel like we have to choose from the lesser of two evils in my community, and we don't understand the power of our vote. I mean, it's pure power. That vote is pure power. And what a lot of people don't know is Wisconsin is now almost 40% minority. I mean, 18.6% Latinx, 12.7% Black, 6% Asian, 1.1% Native American, and other minorities that make up 39%. 61% of our state is our Caucasian brothers and sisters. But minorities won't vote. We have power, huge power. 61% are split. Those 61% are split. And we've been bamboozled, fooled, cheated, tricked, deceived, hoodwinked, misled to believe we have no power. Now, we continue to push because you just don't give up. You just don't lay down. You have to keep fighting. You just don't let people run you over. We have to stop letting people do things to us. We have to start doing things for us. So we kept our souls to the polls, and we've started something else that could be a little bit more potent in advocacy called Power to the Polls, a 501c4 organization. So we can advocate a lot more vigorously and maybe even endorse candidates. We have to build a voting block. That means that we got to have these certain amount of people that are going to vote all the time for our local elections to really gain a grasp on getting people in place who will look out for our interests. And right now, we're canvassing in cities in Wisconsin. We're lighting up Wisconsin. I'm talking about Souls to the Polls, Power to the Polls. We got billboards, signs on buildings. We work with MPS and local colleges to get out the vote. T-shirts with I am a voter. I don't know if you've seen them, caps. All these things are happening right now. Yard signs, rallies. You know, on the 24th, we're going to have a huge rally at MATC, and on the 23rd, we're going to bring in a national personality to really push these last couple of weeks to getting out to vote. Registration gatherings, internet communications, ride to the polls. Everybody rides to the polls. We, even during early voting, and work and collaborating with other organizations, Voces de la Frontera, you know, the Latinx organization, SEIU, Fight for 15, Family Workers Party, NAACP, the Teachers Union, labor unions, radio. We have a radio program every week. We're really pushing out and putting the full court press on right now. Radio commercials, organizing in Appleton, Green Bay, Racine, Kenosha, Beloit, Waukesha. We're in all those places now. So now we're Souls to the Polls, Wisconsin. So we were Souls to the Polls, Milwaukee. Now we're Souls to the Polls, Wisconsin. Now, the biggest thing I say for last, I'll be done just 1 second, is canvassing. We're going to be knocking on over 200,000 doors in these cities, in Milwaukee. That's huge. And that's a big step in improving what we do through Souls to the Polls. And besides that, we're protesting injustice year-round. Housing, crime, COVID. Always recruiting help, and always looking to raise funds. So, organizing to get folks to understand their power. Thank you very much for having me here today, and I really appreciate you listening to me. Thank you.
Would you like to say how people can donate? That would be okay.
Can we say how people can donate?
Yes, and go to our website, soulsofthepolls.org.
Can they hear him? Come over here, Dale.
Sorry.
This is Dale, our tenacious fundraiser. Go ahead, Dale.
Yeah, if you want to make a contribution to Souls to the Polls, please go to our website, soulstothepolls.mke.org. So, and on there's a donate button on the website that you can make contributions. So, whatever you can give, the smallest contributions, every contribution counts. And so, any help you get with us, raising money, we appreciate it.